Hello everyone, how are we doing today? In this video, I'm painting a mermaid. I think that's fairly obvious from the opening sketch. I want to discuss in this video using reference, the importance of using reference, benefits in using reference, maybe why and how you would use reference. I know that there are a lot of artists who don't work that way. Making art is as subjective as seeing or experiencing art. And I'm coming at this from a relatively traditional standpoint. But I want to discuss all of the things that can come with, all the benefits you can have in your artwork by using reference. But I also want to touch on times when maybe you don't want to use reference. And I chose this video specifically because most of the work that I've posted thus far, I have used some sort of reference, whether it be a lighting reference or a few different faces or some references of foliage or different paintings that I like. This mermaid painting is one of the first that I've posted. I'm not using any reference on, which some of you can probably tell. But I just want to discuss a little bit about the time and place that I choose not to use reference and how I feel about it afterwards. So let's start with why we use reference. Similar to when you're learning how to write, using reference is an important tool to help train your hand and your eyes to allow you to represent what it is you're seeing. Using reference is an important tool for learning how to draw and make art, and how to use the reference to translate into your art. It's also something that's not just as straightforward as I'm going to copy this picture of an owl. Reference can be lighting reference, it can be color reference, it can be composition reference. So maybe you just like the composition of a photo or an image and you want to place large objects in a similar formation as a reference photo. Reference isn't something you have to use as a one-to-one match. The goal here is not always to copy exactly. Maybe you wanted to, sketch a rock with moss on it, and it doesn't look exactly like your reference image, but you're using the reference image to recreate the texture of the moss in your painting or drawing. When you're trying to get better at a certain skill set, maybe making textures, maybe, a certain style of painting, it's really important to use reference and sometimes just copy the reference so that you start to get like a muscle memory, an idea of like what needs to happen in order for you to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. These are going to be practice pieces. These are not normally going to be finished pieces that you put out in the world and try and sell or do whatever. But they are important bits of being an artist, like practicing and playing and learning things by trying out what you see is all just part of being an artist. But also whenever you're trying to do something super realistic or get something just right, maybe you take your own photos, maybe you go find open source reference and you can use it to detail final pieces. Reference is an important part of making art because it's not just for practice, but it helps give you an idea of what a finished piece should look like. A lot of artist practice involves life drawing and sitting on site. And like when I went to college for art, we had life drawing classes where we drew fruit and dishes and live models. Using reference can be a real life reference. You can sit in a location. You can go to a life drawing class where maybe they have models that stand in different poses. And this is just teaching you what to look for. It teaches you the form of a person, of fruit, of a location. So that you can reference those later, so that maybe you don't always have to have a reference right in front of you whenever you're working on a sketch or a painting. There's no shame if you do look at a reference whenever you're working on final pieces. I think most artists do. It's an important part of learning as well as finishing pieces. And working with reference also starts allowing you to catalog in your mind how rocks should look, how this animal should look, how anatomy looks. As I mentioned earlier, it's similar to writing. You don't have to reference the alphabet every time you write a letter or you send an email. It's something that gets cataloged in your brain. So using reference is an important bit to become a better artist overall and require less reference all the time. Reference is always going to be something that you need. You can't catalog everything in the entire world. It does give you the tools to work independently from reference if that's something you choose to do. When I'm using reference, for the most part, I'm practicing. I'm trying to figure out a new skill, or I'm putting final details on a piece that I just don't have off the top of my head. Usually it's when I'm working towards something, which is still fun and enjoyable, but it is when I'm trying to accomplish something specific usually. And here's why I think it's important to sometimes make art without reference. I'm a big believer, as are most artists, professional or otherwise, in just playing with your art supplies. Part of the creative process is just figuring out what you like, what colors look cool, how fun is this medium. And it's hard to relax and have fun and really explore a piece or what's going on in your imagination if you turn every single thing you're doing into, I have work to accomplish and I'm trying to accomplish this thing and I want to draw this tree and I need it to look just like this tree. It's important to just relax and enjoy the medium. Not only because I think it's important to enjoy your art supplies so that you continue using them on a regular basis, but also because I think it makes you a better artist. Trying to explore and figure out what you see and how you see the world without a reference sitting in front of your face is just as important as practicing with reference. So this mermaid piece was not made using any kind of reference. I just kind of flew by the seat of my pants. That being said, I do have some catalog idea of what human anatomy looks like. So I had an understanding of what I was working on. I wasn't just like, I'm going to draw an alien that I've never seen before with 18 eyes and I have no reference and I don't know what I'm doing, although that would be very cool and could be something. I do have the catalog of reference in my brain from all of my entire life of drawing, life drawing, practicing, doing different types of artwork. So that's what I mean when I say like using reference helps you learn and allows you to reference later. That being said, that's not the point. So drawing without reference allows you to explore your creativity and just kind of figure out what you like, and allows you to make things that maybe you wouldn't otherwise because you were so focused on recreating what was in the reference, you didn't kind of let your mind run away with you. Maybe you find a color combination that you like. Maybe you make a character completely out of the blue that ends up being something that you really enjoy. I think it's important to let your imagination run away a little bit and not always be so focused on recreating something that already exists. I think that's the beauty of art. I think that's the beauty of creation, is allowing yourself to just kind of be loose and free. Also, it allows you to use and practice using that catalog of information in the back of your head without having it sitting in front of you. Like I've mentioned twice already, it's like learning how to write. First, you trace the letters, and then you write the letters, but you've got the reference up above the chalkboard. The alphabet's written up there, so you can look up if you forget. But after a while, you just start remembering what the letters look like and how to write them and how to use them. I think the same is true whenever you practice drawing or painting or creating without using specific reference after years or months or however long of practice using reference. So I think that there's a time and a place for both reference and practice and study. But there's also a time and a place for play and unbridled creativity, and also practicing using those cataloged references in the back of your brain. I think both are important. Now, specifically working on this mermaid, I wanted to talk a little bit about how I feel when I'm not using reference. Sometimes I feel a little bit insecure. And when I started working on this mermaid, I'm like, oh man, I don't know how I feel about how she looks. She's not very realistic. I wasn't going for realistic. I don't know why I was worried about that, but I was. And I was a little bit insecure. I wasn't sure, man, maybe I'm not just going to finish this. But I pushed through because that's how I work through that stuff, is I just do it anyway and see what happens. And because I'm not using reference in this painting, and because I'm a little bit unsure of how I feel about her face, I'm going to leave it a little bit cartoony, a little bit graphic. But I decided to pay special attention to how I wanted to do her tail and the lines, and really leaning into like the more graphic, simple look of her. And I'm actually really happy with how she turned out. I think she's a lot of fun to look at, and it's something that I wouldn't have done had I been staring at a reference of a model or a person in a similar position. I would have been very focused on, making sure that the lighting matched or the shape of the nose was right, and I didn't do that at all. And she's not realistic. Most of my artwork isn't, so I don't know why that matters. But I think that she looks pretty cool. I love the texture. I like the graphic look of her. I love the color. and I just had fun with it. It was something I got to play with. I got so lost in those details and doing the line work. I looked up and it was accidentally 3 hours later. And I did not intend to stay up until 2 in the morning, but I did. But I was having fun with it. And I think that's the important bit, is making sure that you give yourself time to just enjoy making art and seeing what happens. Like, the experimentation is a big part of creativity, and I think it's really important to lean into that. Anyways, I hope that you guys liked the video. I hope this information was slightly informative and helpful. I really appreciate you coming and watching my videos. Please like and subscribe if you like the video. Comment, let me know what you think. Give me your opinions on reference versus not using reference. And I hope to see you in the next video. Bye, guys.